Welcome to SELINTalks, podcast initiative by SELIN Club. I'm Shruti Verma, and today we have Dr. Meraj as our guest. He's an experienced educator and administrator with a deep understanding of institutional effectiveness and quality assurance in the higher education sector. He has contributed to the evolution of higher education system in UAE and gained comprehensive experience in the standards. Join us as we discuss the contemporary scenario of higher education in the Middle East and Dr. Meraj's valuable insights on the UAE HE framework. First of all, I would really like our audience to know as to how has your journey been so far as an educator, and you've been into it from last few decades, and especially with international education, institutional effectiveness, and there's a lot work that you have been doing since then. So how has been your journey so far?
To start with, as you might have seen in my profile, I am basically Lucknowite, born and brought up there in that beautiful city. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be there, and I'm sure if you might have visited, you might be liking the place. My complete education is from Lucknow and basically from University of Lucknow. My connect with the education starts with my family itself. My great-grandfather, he was the founding principal of one of the very famous degree colleges in Lucknow. Then my mother has been running a secondary school. In fact, it was basically a primary school, and then it became the secondary since last 40 years. And I have been the part and parcel of that. So, and then for a short period of time, I was also associated with some government programs for literacy, especially the national literacy program, which was launched in 90s. And then it was a huge success. And I was actually working there as a volunteer. And then I actually went into the grassroots of those terrains. So this was my connect with the primary education or the secondary education as well as the government setup. Then once I pursued my higher education, I decided, in fact, I joined the corporate. And after maybe a year or so, I felt that, no, it's not my cup of tea. Then I left, came back, started with my school again. I joined my mother, but then I pursued higher education and then went into the teaching into higher education. I was there in Lucknow for maybe some 7-8 years, then moved on to Middle East here, worked as the faculty, as the professor teaching. But then again, if we will take the conversation ahead, we will discuss that again, that in the higher education also that there has been a huge transformation.
Very true.
So it's not only the teaching which will do the work, there has to be a lot of extra efforts in terms of curriculum designing, implementation, evaluation, administration, and then, as you said, institutional effectiveness, which is another word for quality. So this is a little, brief about myself. I have so many stories to tell you. We can talk.
Do tell. Yeah. So how did you decide to be connected with the higher education part of the education system instead of a school or a secondary education or primary for that matter?
It was a very smooth transition. What happened was that once I went back to Lucknow, and then I decided that I have to pursue something which I really like. So then I decided, there have been mentors in my life, and one of my mentors was my PhD guide, Professor Arvind Kumar. I am always blessed to have a person like him. He persuaded me to go for a PhD degree. When I went for a PhD degree, I obviously interacted with so many people. And that actually gave me a flair that, I am into the administrative part of the secondary education. Let me go into the higher, and those things really fascinated me as well. So that was the reason why I went into the higher education teaching. But then when I moved to Middle East, I got convinced again that no, again, the teaching is not the only cup of tea. Let's go ahead with the administrative and quality part. So in the last 5-7 years, I just shifted to quality and effectiveness and all these kind of stuff.
Wow.
So that is how
You
that
have,
went.
yeah. So you have seen the education system here, you've seen the education system in UAE. Is there a very drastic change towards, even as a faculty or as an educator? Is there a drastic change that you see or a transition that you see from here to there?
See, Shruti, it's not about the change. It's about the references from where these two places have evolved their
Hmm.
education system. Our education system is basically a British education system. I mean, that is what Lord Macaulay actually planned, and then that is what we carried on. And
Hmm.
still, we have those things in our legacy. However, when we talk about the UA education system, it is basically a US based education system.
Right.
Although there are some excerpts you will find from British as well, but
Hmm.
basically the base of the education system here for the secondary as well as the higher is the US education. Now the basic difference between, we say that the British and the US system is that the British system says focus more on applicability part. I mean, they focus more on that. Okay, the student should be able to actually know and do that thing practically, irrespective whether he is going into the theory or not, or something like this.
Hmm.
However, the US system is more focused on text, more theory, and maybe you can say more formalized. So this is
Okay.
one of the flavor you can say. The other is that the level of freedom to the faculty in both the areas,
Yeah.
in secondary as well as higher. Uh, like in Indian system, we have a lot of constraints still. I will not say constraint, but a lot of monitoring. You
Hmm.
see, the curriculum, the evaluation, the examination, they are all state controlled or maybe the agency controlled.
Right.
While when you come to UAE, or as I said, the Western system is more, it is more free. I mean, it leaves the faculty with a lot of scope to inject its own ideas, its own thinking, and the way of teaching as well as evaluation. So that is the major difference which is happening. This is
Right.
second. The third, another just to add, the third is the measurement of the outcomes.
Okay.
In our system, the measurement of the outcome or the measurement of the efforts of the teacher as well as the improvement in the student, in our system, it is still subjective. It's not very much clear. It's not numerical.
Hmm.
While in Western system, they have come up with a system in the last 20-25 years, not more than that, but they have come up with a system which actually gives you an opportunity to actually objectively evaluate in numbers, like
Right.
course learning outcomes. Just an example that if we teach a course here in a Western system, they give us a course and then they give us certain maybe 4 or 5 course learning outcomes, which are very specific. That by the end of
Mhm.
the course, the student should be able to comprehend the concepts of physics.
Okay.
And then with this particular learning outcome, they have mapped certain topics. So let's say if it is comprehend the concepts of physics or maths or economics. So there they have mapped, maybe like if it is economics, they will say the law of demand, the law of supply. So if the student is actually able to do that, means this learning outcome has been achieved, and then you can put the number. So that is a major difference.
Right.
Rest also many things, but these are few major things which I felt that
Hmm.
yes, they are.
Right. The learning outcome that you're talking about, I think, if you would have to suggest something for this education system here, our learning outcome is usually done through how much marks a person or what is the score of somebody's individual performances, but not on what they have learned so far, that outcome that you're talking about. Do you think we should also be implementing some not if not entirely, at least some parts of it towards this system here?
Yes, of course. And in fact, lately I was just shuffling through a few curriculums there in Indian University as well as few other universities. They have started adopting this system. I have seen in the Indian universities also, in the colleges also, some reflection of these kind of approaches. You see, when we say about evaluating a particular learning outcome, the idea is that the evaluation has to be divided into certain categories. Certain
Right.
categories in terms of that it's not only the theoretical part, it has to be divided, let's say, a multiple choice quiz where it's a single word answer, maybe a descriptive question, maybe a practical question. Maybe the faculty might come up with that, okay, you have to come here and then display or talk about it, or maybe a simulation. So there are different categories of evaluation or types of evaluation which helps you to actually evaluate a student in different forms. So it's theoretical as well as practical. So that is how
Right.
it happens.
Right. On a different side of the conversation, is there a social cause that you really, really support and contribute to?
Shruti, it's a short question, however, with a very long answer. But
Yeah.
just to give you a very crisp reply, the biggest challenge for the education today is that the education has been brought from the social cause to a commercial cause. That has been a tragedy with the system,
Right.
to tell you the truth. I mean, myself as a student, we have grown up with that system in India. When for a university, we only used to know that okay, it's a state university. There is
Hmm.
no private bachelor or there is no private masters or anything of that sort. If it is a higher education, it has to be a government institution or rather
Right.
the primary school as well. But in the last 20 years, as you are, I mean, obviously into the thick and things of the things, so you must be aware of, it has been completely commercialized.
Very
The
true.
biggest, the biggest challenge today is to bring that opportunity of higher education to the middle class, especially. I am focusing on this word, middle class. I'm not talking about the economically weaker section. I'm not talking about the elite. I'm talking about the middle class people like me. That if today I want my child to go and pursue a bachelor's degree in science,
Hmm.
trust me, it will cost you somewhere around approximately 50, 60,000 US dollars.
Yeah.
And frankly speaking, it's the same case in India also happening.
Yeah.
Now, why I excluded, let me clarify, otherwise there might be a controversy. Why I excluded the economically weaker section? Because there are institutions, the government is already also very much cautious about taking care of those sections.
Right.
But this middle class, which has so many things to do and so many areas of investment, this is the biggest challenge. So where I contribute is that I am in my efforts of maybe coming up with my own institution, which will come up with something more bearable for
Wow.
this middle class, at least in UAE. I mean,
Wow.
where I mean, as you say, that for the airlines, no frills airlines. So I seriously feel that there is a need of no frills education system. I mean, education institutions. That my
Wow.
institution might not be having those very smart boards, but definitely something which will actually cater to the knowledge of the student. So I don't know, but it's an effort. Up to I don't know up to what extent I will be reaching that.
That's really
So
great
that's
news. The least, I would really like to know who is your role model? Who inspires you?
You see, if I say that there is none, it will be, I mean, a very ambitious statement to make or very exaggeration. But frankly speaking, as everyone owes, it's my father who actually groomed me.
Wow.
for my values and so many things. But on my mother's part, it is exactly the correct word if I use that she is the one, the guiding force behind. Because
Wow.
because as I said, I mean, I can share the details of the institution she is running now. My brother is taking care of. He actually started, and it's a real story. I mean, anyone can right now go and verify there in Lucknow. He started the school, the so-called simple school in Indian terrain, where this there was no, I mean, not even proper sanitation available. It was established in 1980.
Wow.
Now, with that, I was also involved with her throughout the journey. Till the time I came here, I was involved. So I have seen those practical hardships which actually comes. Now the things are very easy. I mean, now if you want to establish an institution, it's pretty easy. But at
Yeah.
that time, it was really hard. So to be very honest, these are the two guiding principles. For naming the people, for the sake of naming, I can name so many. But frankly
Yeah.
speaking, these are the two. I mean, I will not exaggerate, but this is the real story.
I'm so glad because a lot of us, when we think of role model, the first switch goes to somebody who's done too big in life, or some celebrities, or some motivational speakers, or something. But we forget that the inspiration actually is there with us. Their parents, their
Yeah,
families. Yeah. So I think we need to really think about it.
yeah,
I would
yeah.
really, yeah.
It's all about that. So,
Thank you so
uh,
much. Thank you
thanks.
so much for your time.
Take care.
The little conversation that we had
Uh,
was still really good.
take care.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day. Have a nice day.
You
Take care.
too.
Take care.